Hi there, I'm Maddie Harvey, knitwear designer and knitting teacher. This is a video tutorial to show you two ways to help get rid of holes in the underarm area when you're knitting a top-down cardigan or jumper. Hope you find it useful. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I am here every Thursday with a new video tutorial or knitting tips and tricks. So this is a little kind of mock-up of a top-down construction. So this is like the front stitches of say a cardigan. These are the sleeve stitches and these are the back stitches, and I have got to the point where I've put the sleeve stitches on hold, and I'm going to turn it around and show you two tricks for minimizing holes in the underarms, because what quite often happens is with top-down sweaters or cardigans, you quite often get a little hole on either side of your cast-on stitches and your on-hold sleeve stitches when you come to start the sleeves. So let me just turn this round and I'll show you what to do. So the first little trick is, instead of casting on, so I'm going to cast on 6 stitches here just so that I've got enough to show you, but for the first one, instead of actually casting on a stitch here, I'm just going to lift up this loop that's underneath the one that's the first one on my needle. So I'm just going to lift up that loop and I'm going to sort of twist it to put it on. Okay, and I'm leaving my working yarn in the front there. Okay, so I'm just picking up that first stitch and twisting it to put it on my needle. So that is my first kind of cast on stitch, and that just helps sort of close up the gap between the rows underneath and these on hold stitches. Now I learnt that little tip from Anna Maltz when I was knitting from her penguins book. So that's a really good one. If you're ever casting on stitches in this way, just lift up the stitch from the row underneath the stitch that's on the needle and twist it and get it back on. Okay, and that is your first kind of cast on stitch. So I was going to cast on 6 stitches, so I've got 5 to cast on. Now often when you're doing this, it asks you to use a backward loop method to cast on stitches, but what I suggest is turn to the wrong side and then actually do a cable cast on, which if it was knit-wise, you would put your needle through the top 2 stitches right to the back, put your working yarn round and pull through a loop. But because this is purl-wise, I am going to stick my needle from the back to the front through in between those top 2 stitches, and then I'm going to wrap my yarn around my needle and pull through a stitch, and I'll put that on. So if you've ever used a backward loop cast on just as a regular cast on at the start of a project, you might have noticed that it can be very loose. You end up with sometimes with a big strand in between stitches. So I think doing this cable cast on really helps to minimize the holes, because it's a much more stable cast on than a backward loop cast on, and it also makes a nicer edge for picking up stitches. So insert your needle from the back to the front, put your yarn around, pull that through and put that stitch back on. So in between the top 2 stitches from the back to front, and then purl and then put that stitch back on. In between the top 2 stitches, purl and put that one back on, and then have we got 6 now? I think I've got one more to cast on. Okay, and then I'm going to turn back to the right side, and here are my cast on stitches. You can see they're pretty stable there. They've got quite a nice edge here, so when I come to pick up the stitches for the sleeves and the underarm area, it's much more stable, and there's not these kind of loose strands that you get when you do a backward loop cast on. And then you can just carry on knitting the rest of your sleeve stitches, so you can carry on knitting the rest of your stitches there. So that is one of the things that I talk about in my Picking Up Stitches masterclass. I also show another little tip, a little technique that we practice in the class for helping minimise underarm holes. So if you are interested in that and finding out the next time that one runs, the best thing to do would be to sign up to my mailing list, which you can do at maddieharveydesigns.com. I release new video tutorials every Thursday, so please don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks, bye!